Are there any politicians that you particularly admire at the moment? You've hinted about one or two. And are there other politicians whom you think have done, all politicians are weak, of course, I should know, but are there particular politicians who've done damage that you think needs to be called out?
Well, the Conservatives in the UK, they need a desperate slap. Now, they got one in the last election, but that doesn't mean they've learned. They allowed, I'll speak bluntly, they allowed Boris Johnson's obsession with his young wife to decimate the UK economy. Like, we're in favor of net zero. It's like, really, you're Conservatives. Where did that come from, you dimwits? And so, maybe my attribution of that move to Johnson's desire to please his environmentally sensitive wife is a bit on the cynical side, but then again, maybe not. And I just can't believe that the Conservatives, who were conservative primarily in name only, fell prey to the globalist machinations on the immigration side, and that they fell for the idiot blandishments of net zero. Net zero. Any politician who talks about zero anything has instantly outed themselves as completely incapable of mature thought. Like, there's no zero. Like, that's a foolish target because zero is perfect. And good luck. There's no way you can make one dimension of anything perfect without sacrificing everything else. And so that's a bad idea. We're
Out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made.
Right? That's the plan.
Yep.
And the justification is going to be, well, there's too many people on the planet anyways, which, you should be immediately put in stocks in the public square for at least a month, merely as a consequence of uttering that phrase. I mean, what sort of genocidal demon has you in its possession when you say the planet has too many people on it? Like, are you listening to the words coming out of your mouth? Who's going to go? And who decides? Well, me. Yeah, no kidding. It'll be you for about 10 minutes, and then the monsters that you've enabled will dispense with you like they have in every revolution in the past. And that'll be the end of your presumption. Foolish. And so what? I get a kick out of Nigel Farage. He's patterned his Reform Party, weirdly enough, after the Reform Party in Canada, which put the conservatism back in conservatism in Canada. And Nigel Farage is a pretty odd conservative, but so is Pierre Poilievre in Canada. And obviously so is this preposterous pack of Republicans that now occupy the White House. But I'm pretty much in favor of anyone at the moment who dares to question the DEI narrative and the climate apocalypse. That's at least a start, and we need much more emphasis on pro-family policies, broadly speaking, in the West. They've made a fair bit of progress on that front in places like Hungary, which is radically pro-family in its orientation. The ARC also, by the way, it's not a classic political organization because much of its proposition should be attractive to genuine leftists. The idea that we should eradicate absolute poverty. It's like, at least in principle, that was the hallmark of leftist thinking forever, right? Because the leftists are for the poor, unless they're pitted against the planet, in which case they're perfectly willing to sacrifice the poor. What would you say? And moralize about it while they're doing it. The ARC enterprise is also firmly opposed to fascism in the form of government and big business collusion, which we've seen plenty of, especially on the free speech, what would you say, on the anti-free speech front in the US and, well, now in the UK and Europe. It's just like, what are you people doing? Have you lost your minds? Hate crime incidents, non-crime hate incidents. Really? That's what you have your police doing. Non-crime hate incidents. Jesus, you've lost your bloody minds, and you better get it together. And then for Keir Starmer to come out, I thought it was an AI fake, and say, oh, you know that immigration policy we've been pursuing for 10 years, and the one that we persecuted everyone for exposing? Well, that was all a conspiracy, and it was a big lie, and everyone knew it. Sorry. And then the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch, basically made the same admission. It's like, the UK better get its act together, and I'm sure hoping it does, because it's a remarkable place, and the world would be much less. The world would be much less without the UK and without Europe. My God, it would be a catastrophe to lose the European endeavor. Man, I can hardly imagine anything worse, and it certainly could happen.
I hope that when you come over for the art conference, you'll have a chance to talk to Kemi Badenoch and her team, because I think there are some very exciting and interesting things that they're developing.
I have met her, and yes, I mean, she could easily be a force for revitalization on the Conservative side. More power to her, as far as I'm concerned. I'm just so appalled by what the Conservatives did when they were in power. I mean, the immigration mess and the net zero mess, I don't see how you could fail more spectacularly than to fail on those two fronts simultaneously.
Those are both issues where you would find that your analysis and her instincts are if not identical, certainly aligned.
Yes, well, I would say the same thing with Poilievre in Canada.
Yes.
And he's tough.
Mm.
He's a tough character, and he's going to demolish the Liberals in Canada. It's possible. I've been joking online that we should try for net zero Liberals in 2025. And that's a real possibility. I mean, it's possible that Trudeau's narcissistic machinations will destroy the Liberal Party in Canada as a political entity. They could easily be reduced to the point where their party no longer has official status.
Oh, no, quite. It could be, for people who watch Canadian politics, it could be the case that the Conservatives, the party to the left of the Liberals, or ostensibly the NDP, and Quebec parties, Quebec independence politicians, divide the pie between them, and the Liberals are, reduced to an historic low. It's a very volatile situation.
It's highly probable, and we also have this appalling spectacle in Canada, which you just can't believe even when you're watching it. The Trudeau government is being propped up by Jagmeet Singh, who has all of the flaws of Trudeau and none of his virtues, which is very low level of compliment.
He's the leader of the NDP, the sort of more labourish party. Yeah.
The Rolex watch, bespoke suit wearing, Maserati driving, leader of the working class. He's attractive physically, like Trudeau is, and charming, I suppose, in his own narcissistic way. And he is literally propping up the Liberal government, while simultaneously at every opportunity telling Canadians how bad a job the Liberals are doing and how much they need to go. He is the most hypocritical politician I've ever seen in Canada by an order of magnitude. And the fact of his existence and his continued grip on the helm of the Socialist Party is indicative, like nothing else, of the dismal state of the Canadian left. I mean, you couldn't invent Jagmeet Singh in a bad novel. No one would believe that anything like that could possibly exist. He's like something from an Ayn Rand novel. It's mind-boggling.